Right, good morning, everybody. My name's Lee Roberts, and at Tesco Media, I get to help brands grow. And I'm delighted to be joined on stage today by Nina Burrows, who runs the engine room at Tesco Media, ensuring brands' campaigns look fantastic and ultimately they perform. Now, today, Nina and I have a very, very important task. We want to turn all of you here into believers of retail media's creative opportunity. You see, most of you here today, you're not at the party. You've been invited. You know that you probably should come, have a bit of fun, but for whatever reason, you're continuing to miss out on retail media's creative opportunity. And that's all the while knowing that media is becoming more fragmented. Attention is on the decline, and it is becoming harder and harder for brands to really cut through and seize those moments that matter. But look, I've got really, really good news for you today, because retail media is absolutely blowing up as a playground for creative excellence that's helping brands really cut through smart targeting, creative context, and also driving performance, all happening where it matters most, at that closest point to brand choice and to purchase. Now, you may be sat there thinking, here we go again, retail media and creativity, those two things maybe shouldn't exist in the same breath. And you may be sat there thinking, well, you know, retail media is all about promotion. It's all about selling stuff, and there's not much room for brand, there's not much room for creativity and brand storytelling. But actually, look, we believe really firmly that retail media's creative opportunity is yet to be fully realized. But when it is, the opportunity for rich brand storytelling and performance is absolutely limitless. Now today, we're going to set you up with a little bit of retail creative theory, and then we're going to share some fantastic case studies that really bring it all to life and show you what you're currently missing out on. Now, we all know that effectiveness is absolutely key to campaign success. So to start, let's take a little bit of a step back and look at why creativity is integral to that. Now, we've not just entered an episode of Top Gear, okay, but when we were putting this together, a couple of guys in the room, way more smarter than me, said, you know what you need today, Lee? You need an analogy. So here we are. You don't need to be a car fan to understand this. We all know that there are cars at different ends of the spectrum. At one end, you've got cars that look great. They're super fast, they're slick. But you know what? Like this Lambo, they're not very practical. They're not very consistent getting you from A to B. And then at the other end of the spectrum, we've got a tin can on wheels. We've got a Fiat Multipla. It's not going to get you an admiring look at the traffic lights. Your kids aren't going to want to be seen in it. But what it does do, it gets you from A to B reliably and cost effectively. So what we have at one end of the scale, we've got fashion over function. At the other end of the scale, we've got that function over fashion. Now, look, I personally would rather be seen at that end of the scale. It says more about me, but you know, for the purposes of most car drivers, they want a little bit of both. Dare I say they want a Lambo Multipla, which I get for the car enthusiasts is quite a horrendous thought. But let's bring this back to creativity, with brand being that fashion and performance being that function. I think for most of you in the room, retail media creative probably sits a little bit on the right. It's a bit like the Fiat Multipla. It's not very exciting. It's not very inspiring. But you know what? It does the job. But we're here today to convince you that actually retail media creativity doesn't need to be on the right-hand side. It doesn't need to be all Lambo either. What it can be, and what it should absolutely be, is a bit of both. With creativity working as that glue to bring brand and performance together so that your campaigns, your marketing are working to common objectives. Now, we all, I think, agree, I think we're comfortable with the fact that creativity drives media effectiveness. And whilst a quote from a COO might not feel like the most natural link to a conversation today about creativity, what our friend Steve here, formerly at Coke, does really well. He lands the fact that brands need to be both present and driving impact when speaking to customers. And if you look back over the IPA effectiveness studies spanning the last 15 years, consistently, all those studies throw out the fact that campaigns with creativity at its heart are 6 times more effective than those without, inspiring emotion, triggering behavior, and importantly, driving advocacy. So look, what we have is creativity being that opportunity to bring brand and performance together. And we know, we're comfortable with the fact that creativity drives far more effectiveness for your campaigns. Now, when you throw into that mix context and scale, that's when retail media really comes into its own. That starts playing to retail media's strengths. And that's a significant game changer. You see, if you take the shackles off, start to get really playful with creativity in retail media, you're doing that firstly with context, either in store or online, at that closest point to brand choice and to purchase that I mentioned. And you're doing that with a level of scale that surpasses most of the mediums that you're planning most of your budgets on. You see, at Tesco Media, we reached 24 million households out of 28 million in the UK. When you apply that contextual relevance, either in store or online, that means we can reach 13 million weekly shoppers. That's 13 million weekly shoppers. So getting that mix right of creativity, context, and scale, driving attention, that's the sweet spot for retail media. And we see that in the performance that it drives. So look, I'm going to hand over to Nina in a moment to take you through a couple of great case studies that really bring that retail media creative sparkle. But I just want to underline the fact that what we're talking about today in terms of creativity, that's not a pipe dream for retail media. We're already delivering that excellence, working with brands and working with agencies. So let's take a look at some of that in action.
Got me feeling good. Kept the faith and praise right through it. Happiness is here at last. Let me tell you how it happened. Some took over me. Got my hands and feet. Couldn't stay in my seat. Now I clearly see.
Club card accepted.
So good. How good. So good.
You got any plans later?
Good.
Brilliant stuff. So on to case studies, and I've got 2 excellent examples to share with you today. So looking at 2 brands who recognise that Tesco Media can provide a fabulous playground for creative excellence. So starting with a household favourite, Nestlé asked for our help launching their Kit Kat sharing MPD by leaning into a simple truth that we are a nation who loves to treat ourselves in the evening. And it was our goal to tap into that habit and ensure that Kit Kat not only became the brand of choice for breaks, but it also became the brand of choice for when the day winds down. So breaking that down, we needed to build a media plan that delivered on getting chocolate buyers to feel excited to try the new Kit Kat product by building unforgettable associations that connected with evening consumption buying moments. And that resulted in a tease, launch and love media strategy that focused on 4 different targeting audiences. And a lot of what Lee and I will talk to today covers creativity from a content standpoint. But for this campaign, it also applied to the audience build. So we looked at different buying moments and different data science and kind of all of that sophisticated stuff to identify 2 slightly different audiences. So we had a predictive MPD experimenters audience, and we also had an interest-based audience, so nights in, and they were both neatly complemented by our brand and category customer segments. And this campaign ran over 2 phases. So we had a teaser campaign, So that was designed to prime and excite customers ahead of the product landing. And then that was quickly followed up by the all-important launch campaign. So continuing to build on that excitement, ensuring that when the product did land in store and online, it was truly unmissable, and ultimately got customers to the point of purchase to drive that all-important trial. And given the fragmentation of attention, it became really important and crucial as part of this campaign for us to use Kit Kat's distinct brand cues and assets consistently throughout the duration and the breadth of the campaign, converting those small windows of influence into a sum of impactful moments. And the result was a standout and unmissable campaign that delivered creative consistency from sofa to store. And it also leans into much of the research in market that brands are built through the sum of many exposures. And even the smallest asset, branded consistently, can have a really positive and meaningful contribution to the total media mix. So before we jump into the results, I did just want to pause on three particularly creative and differentiated touch points. So firstly, our brand zone, so hosted on tesco.com, full of rich creative assets, including video, and not only played a really important role, an integral role in the online shopping journey, but also doubled up as a really engaging and brilliant destination for our off-site media to connect to. Secondly, special builds digital out-of-home screens. These were situated in close proximity to carefully selected express stores, and I'm sure you'll all agree they look incredible, certainly driving that standout and unmissable factor. And then finally, our in-store aisle arch, so very much designed to ensure that the brand owned the category, delivered that visual dominance, and ultimately drove customers down the aisle. So on to results. So as you can see, the campaign performed really, really well. The Kit Kat brand saw market share growth of 1.9 percentage points. Spend per customer increased by 6.7 percentage points. And evening impulse purchases increased by 2 percentage points. So improving market share, driving up spend from a core shopper profile, and crucially, increasing that evening consumption shopping moment. So that was our first case study. So we had an established brand launching a new product, classic MPD brief, but just shows that with a bit of creative flair applied to not only the content build, but how we think about audiences and how that connects to channels, we can demonstrate some really meaningful results that deliver on both performance and brand objectives. So fashion and function, Lambo and multipler combined. So that's our first case study. From sweet into savoury, we've got a slightly different approach to creativity. This is a brilliant and contextually relevant example of the role that Tesco Media can play in delivering your objectives. And I'm just going to play a video before I jump into the details of the campaign.
Long summer days offer life's simple pleasures. Food, drink, and quality time with friends. This is our twist on cacio e pepe, with golden slices of fried courgette. The spice of black pepper and nutty pecorino cheese pair perfectly with a crisp, well-balanced beer Moretti. Try it for your next dinner party. Buon appetito!
Fab. So now we've got Biera Moretti, an established brand and an established set of products, looking for new creative ways to build their brand. And the result was a food content partnership in conjunction with Tesco Real Food, delivering that brand association with food moments, whilst also inspiring customers and helping them to plan, shop, and cook their meals. And in collaboration with Heineken, we delivered a content-led campaign designed to do just that, drive that association with that famed Italian beer and the country's cuisine. And we did so by utilising the full breadth of Tesco Real Food's creative capabilities, inspiring customers to consider Biera Moretti and their premium lagers in the same way they do wine when thinking about what drink they want to pair with Italian recipes they are cooking and consuming at home. And not only did they run brilliant content on that Tesco Real Food Hub, but it was, we used the same branded cues and assets, and we pushed those into contextually relevant media moments, continuing to drive that association, but importantly, thinking about how we can ensure customers discover the hub in a really seamless way. So you've got some neat examples of on-site activity that's running at the moment, sponsoring maybe slightly different key terms than we're used to in the average campaign. And this is something that's going to keep building out. So yes, so on to results. So this campaign is still live today. So after this session, please do go online and have a little look at it and get to experience it from a customer standpoint. But we are 1 month in and the results are looking really, really promising. So you can see a really, really strong engagement rate. So the engagement rate for this campaign is 83%, so significantly higher than the site average. So the content clearly really engaging, really meaningful, and really additive for customers on that Tesco Real Food platform. And importantly, it's also delivering for the brand by driving that all-important purchase intent. So that's the final example and case study that we wanted to share with you today. But again, just goes to demonstrate that creativity can really solve both brand and performance challenges.
So look, 2 fantastic examples of storytelling with KitKat and with Moretti. 2 great examples of retail media creative excellence in practice. Hopefully, you're feeling suitably inspired and you're thinking about how your brand might be featuring up here next year. But if you are sat there thinking, look, they look great, but that's just not going to work for my brand, our ask is that you take a creative leap. You look beyond just planning a campaign, and you look at how your brand can start living creatively in a retail media environment. It doesn't need to be or fiat multipla. Now, we've just done some research actually with Lumen that looked into the role of screens on that retail media journey. And the headline here, internal and external screens, when planned together, doubles attention, but also increases recall by 3.5 times. So the data shows there that when you take that creative leap, when you apply context, when you apply scale, you can drive positive brand impact for absolutely any brand. Now look, we're almost at time. Okay, so the guys at the back are getting a little bit twitchy. So I want to leave you with 3 key takeaways from today. Firstly, creativity is absolutely integral when it comes to retail media planning. We all collectively need to up our game where this is concerned. Secondly, that magic formula of creativity, context, and scale driving attention is where retail media steps into its own. It's what it does really, really well. Don't continue to miss out. And then thirdly, as we saw with both the KitKat example and the Moretti example, access to brand toolkits is absolutely key for retail media to start delivering storytelling and drive up impact, association, and ultimately performance. So we need to move that conversation further upstream when it comes to creativity and unlock that opportunity. And look, a final ask for me. When you're next speaking to your Tesco media rep, and there are a lot of us here today, look beyond just planning that campaign. Look beyond just talking about performance. Take that creative leap with us jointly and think about how your brand can turn up creatively. And who knows, we might be talking about you this time next year at MadFest 26. Thank you all very much.